what's happening today? Why are you guys here today?
So this is a women's march, but basically it's a march of protest. Californians are great at doing that. It's something we've been doing since the 1960s, or essentially over half a century. This is called the Women's March, but obviously it's a rebuke or refutation of Donald Trump and the fact that America chose him as their election official. Now, I know what people are going to say, that's not true, but we're about California leaving, and this proves our point. If California votes were taken away, Trump won the popular election. Sorry. So what kind of people elect a man like that? The answer, not Californians. He wouldn't have been a nominee. He wouldn't have been a party nominee. He wouldn't have been elected. All three things happen in America, never would have happened in California. California is the only place in America that they shut down his motorcade and he had to walk across cinder blocks. Now, people may say they don't like him, but we shut that party train down. It's a whole other level out here. So we're basically here to tell people that I know that California officials are telling you that they're going to protect you, but in federalism, the federal government overrules state law. That's what it means to be in a federal system. There is going to be a limit to what they can do. Most Californians aren't aware that Californians already gave up, your elected officials in California already gave up providing insurance to undocumented people. That was last week. So Trump 1, California 0. You're going to find out there's a limit to what you can do to protect all of these people in the federal system. And at that point, yes, California's here. The option is, you don't like yes, California, you don't like the baggage, what we said, how we said it, fine. Yes, leave. We're the 5th largest economy in the world. I'm not asking you to endorse Brexit, but what the English figured out is that when you have a certain amount of money, right or wrong, evil, wicked, or totally great, you can do whatever the hell you want.
So how do we do that? How do you propose to just leave?
So it's really this simple. You get the majority of Californians to get interested in an idea, and it happens like that. I know that seems a simplification, but the world economy is too integrated for the top 20, or more specifically the top 10 economies, to be limited in doing whatever they want. California has been one of the top 10 economies since the late 70s, around 77, 78, which means that because of its economic might, it can literally do whatever it wants, and the world will have to go along, as long as it's legal and peaceful. So, let's look at climate change. The entire world said that's ridiculous, it can't happen. Ban Ki-moon of the United Nations said California alone got the world to move on climate change. If we can move the world to do climate change by ourselves, then we can certainly become seceding and independent. All you got to do is get the idea in Californians' heads. I've talked to thousands of Californians. There's one thing none of them disagree with. Once Californians get an idea, they never let go. That's it.
And has the response been growing? Has momentum been gaining since
Yeah.
Trump has emerged?
So before Trump, we've been around 2.5 years. Said the same thing 2.5 years, never changed our talking points. We had 11,000 members and 3,000 volunteers, and we were in the LA Times twice, San Francisco Chronicle, San Diego News, radio, TV, and print all across Sacramento, New York Times, and ABC TV. On November 9th, Donald Trump was elected. We grew to 30,000 people from 11,000 in a 36-hour window, and from 3,000 volunteers to about 7,000, and on a Twitter feed from about 700 to 15,000. The response has been incredible. We now have 140,000 people on email. I will point out that the official Democratic Party and the official Republican Party of California have only about 40,000 people on their Facebook. Our fringe ridiculous movement has 30,000.
So what do you say when people call you fringe ridiculous or they think your ideas are crazy?
I published the book in 2012. I was told you'll never find a publisher. No one will ever listen to you. No one will ever join. Nobody will ever pick it up. The international world will not listen. You'll never get any sponsors. Everybody's been dead wrong, so why should I listen to you?
Well, so what's next? What does it take to make it happen?
So, I mean, officially we have the ballot initiative. Yes, California is the only group with the initiative, period. So, let's say you don't like the way we're doing it. Okay, you have to have a vote to secede under international legal precedent going back over the last 60 years. The only people who filed a ballot that's been accepted by the California Republic is Yes California. We are the only one out there. By the way, we're going to be able to start collecting signatures in about a week. And the Attorney General of California last week in the fiscal summary for the ballot initiative of this organization admitted for the first time in California history that secession is legal. That's right. The California acting Attorney General last week said Texas versus White does in fact say consent of the states, meaning secession's legal. Yes, California alone got the California government to admit for the first time in 150 years of statehood that secession is in fact legal. That's a binding document. It's out there online for anyone to look at.
Do you think we can do it?
Look at this. Do you see how quick I ran out of signs? People were just grabbing it out of my hands. We were at 30,000. Every time I go out, there was French TV here. We have another documentary crew here. 3 years ago, it was 2 dudes. It was me and Lewis. 2 California dudes. We started protesting Tim Draper's thing. We got in the news. There was one other group that got in the news, and that was by a bunch of ex-political consultants with a couple $1 million. Then 2 guys opposed it on a pro-California tip, and we got as much traction. Now we're at 30,000 people on Facebook and 140,000 people on email. We've been in the top 4 French, English, Scottish, Spanish, German, Russian, Japanese news stations, LA Times, New York Times 3 times, ABC TV, MSNBC, CNN, in addition to Japanese news and Chinese news. So I understand people think that'll never happen, but if you looked at the trajectory, there's absolutely no logical take on that. We should have never gotten here. We should have never published a book. We should have never gotten traction. People should not have joined. The international news should not have covered us. New York Times should not be asking for our interviews. We should not have 4 different documentary crews here today. 2.5 years ago, it was 2 dudes. All we said was California could be a nation and we're a different culture.
So what inspires you personally to keep fighting this fight?
I'm sorry?
What inspires you personally to keep fighting?
I wrote the book. I'm right. That's it. Copernicus, Galileo, Giordano da Bruno. There's a lot of people in history who see something that nobody else does. And everybody says, oh, you're so silly, that's ridiculous. Turns out they're right and everybody else was wrong. Little guy called Gandhi, Martin Luther King, Cesar Chavez, Lech Walesa. It doesn't happen all the time, but on occasion, people figure out the correct way of the world when everybody else and all the officials and all the professors and all the politicians and all of the think tanks and all of the authors say, that's ridiculous, and they're all dead wrong. I think you're looking at the maybe 10th time this century that's happened. And if I'm wrong, then why did we run out of signs and shirts? Why do we have 30,000 people? Why are there documentary crews? It started with one guy. This is it. That's how it started. Just me. I traveled to 40 cities. The videos are on YouTube. Marcus Ruiz Evans. I was doing this by myself. I got nowhere. Then I met Lewis. Then we grew to 11,000. Then Brexit happened and we grew more. Then Donald Trump was elected and we grew more. Then we filed a petition and we grew more. Then there was the women's protest and we grew more. People are going, that's not reasonable. Based on what? You wrote a conclusive study of secession movements and democracies? No, you didn't. There's only one study out. So there is no expert on this but me. I've been doing it. I wrote a book. I see professors talking about it. They never wrote an article on this. They've never spoken about it before. They never wrote a book, a white paper. So why do they know what they're talking about? Why don't you do some exhaustive research of legal, peaceful secession movements in the modern era with the Brexit anomaly, and then get back to me? What I see is professors giving a soundbite, and that's it. In academia, if you want to be listened to, you have to have a background on the subject. You don't just get a pop off. That doesn't work. Background on the subject. Me. Who's that guy?
Great. Thank you, Marcus. Thank you. That was great. Good job.